Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Common Man's Take on Sports with Kevin
and Quentin.
All right, we're going to try something a little different today. We're going to start off with a local football player who's a good news story. This kid played in Boonville, Indiana, which is a Boonville's population is 6,000 people. Just to kind of give you an idea how small of a town that is. 6,627 people, so it's a pretty small town. So this kid played high school there at Boonville. He was also played varsity basketball as well. He played varsity football and basketball. He was a multi-sport athlete. So Devin Mockabee had a pretty decent high school career. He set out. He only played a couple games his freshman year, 3 games. He only had 8 carries for 18 yards. His sophomore year, he got a little bit more. He played 11 games with 33 carries and 43 yards. But his junior year is when he really broke out. He played 10 games. He had 139 carries for 1,384 yards and 17 touchdowns. And then as a senior, he had 189 carries for 1,820 yards and 24 touchdowns. Now, had he played in a big high school conference that was considered a football hotbed, he probably would have been a pretty decently rated recruit. However, since he played high school football at Boonville, he wasn't really recruited very hard and wasn't ranked very high coming out of high school. So he ended up, after graduating from high school in the summer of 2021, walking on at Purdue. And so his first year at Purdue as a freshman, he was redshirted. His redshirt freshman, he didn't play any. And so last year, he didn't play in the first game, but by the second game, he took the starting role. And he ended up playing 13 games for Purdue last year. He had 195 carries for 968 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also had 32 receptions for 274 yards. So that's actually a pretty good year for a Division I running back. He's set to be the starter again this year, and since he had that redshirt freshman year, he's considered a sophomore this year, so he still has a few more years to play. So that's just a local boy here from Indiana that, again, he's a good news story. He wasn't highly recruited. He stuck with it. Purdue let him walk on there. He kept working hard. Now he's on scholarship. Not only is he the starting running back, but he earned a scholarship. So it's pretty good news story from a local boy here. I think I'm going to try to do this more often. Start out with a local player who kind of went under the radar and made good for it. So, what do you think about that, Quentin?
Well, so yeah, I've pulled up his stats, and what makes it from a lower rated recruit to getting, 9 rushing touchdowns for Purdue, 195 carries, and 968 yards. So that shows he deserves to be a starter.
He had
he had an impact year.
Yep, he had 1,242 yards from scrimmage. So that's pretty good between his receiving and his rushing yards. That's pretty good.
So that's pretty good from a kid who came from Boonville. Mm-hmm. Most football players from Boonville aren't this great.
Well, they don't generally get recruited, so you have to work really hard to earn your opportunity, which Devin Mockabee did. Yeah. He kept working, and finally he got to walk on somewhere, and when he did, he made good with the first opportunity he got. Obviously on the scout teams as a freshman, when he redshirted, they thought pretty highly of him to give him the opportunity to start last year. And so he's in line to be a starter again this year. And I think he's in line to have a bigger year too. I think he may go over the 1,000-yard threshold this year. So that's a pretty good story for a kid from Boonville, an unknown kid from Boonville who walked on.
Yes, that is true.
It gives other kids from small towns hope, right? Because kids from small towns only hope they can get noticed, right? So this kid right here, Devin Mockaby, proves that even if you're from a place where the scouts, the college scouts don't go, like you can still be seen, and it's a little bit of hard work and determination, and you can still make your opportunities. Like he wasn't given an opportunity, he made his opportunity. He went out and found it. That's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive. So I thought that'd be pretty good to talk about. So now let's move on to the NFL preseason power rankings. All right, so I've watched a few preseason games. Obviously, preseason games you take with a grain of salt because mostly the starters don't play. They may play one quarter or so, and then the rest of the game is for the coaches to figure out who they want to keep and who they want to cut, right?
Yeah.
So let's just kind of go through this. Number one on the list is the Kansas City Chiefs, which Super Bowl champs, and they're always good, as long as Patrick Mahomes is there and that wide receiver core is there, they're going to be just fine. I think number one for the Chiefs is a good pick. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the Chiefs are going to be pretty tough again this year and definitely have the opportunity to make it all the way to the Super Bowl again, barring any crazy injuries or anything. So, second on the list is the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm okay with that too. The Eagles are good. I know they lost a couple players. They lost a running back or so, but honestly, the Eagles are a running back by committee type of team. And also, Jalen Hurts is a threat to run, so that's an extra runner. So I think the Eagles are going to come out of the NFC East anyway. The Cowboys may give them a run for their money, but as of right now, I think the Eagles win that division again. I don't think the Giants or Commanders have done enough to challenge the Cowboys or the Eagles just yet. So, I'm good with the Eagles being number two. I think that's a good spot for them. The Bengals are number three. And I think it's a good ranking for them. I think Cincinnati is definitely one of the better teams in the AFC. I know Joe Burrow had that calf injury, but to be honest, it was a few weeks ago. I'm not really worried about that. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he'll be ready for week one. I haven't seen anything that says he won't. They obviously have that trio of receivers that is very good. Probably the best trio of receivers in the NFL, period, with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd. So, the Bengals will be just fine. They got Joe Mixon at running back, so they're good. They have a solid defense. I think they'll be fine. I'm okay with number three going into the season. Again, I think they'll be one of the tougher teams in the AFC. The 49ers at number four. I think that's a good ranking for them. I think they're going to be one of the tougher teams in the NFC this year, and I think they have an opportunity to maybe make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year, at least the NFC Championship. I think they got a pretty solid team there defensively and offensively. I know that a little bit of talk about the quarterback situation, but to be honest, I thought until he got hurt, I thought Brock Purdy did an excellent job, and I think he's going to start again.
He is expected to start.
Yep. And I think that I think they're going to be I think he's a solid quarterback, and I think he works perfect in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I think the 49ers will be just fine. You got the Buffalo Bills Obviously, they're always a tough team with Josh Allen. The only thing that I think they need to figure out is they need to figure out that Stephon Diggs situation because you don't want an unhappy receiver on your team. That never makes for a good combination.
Especially that good of a wide receiver.
Yep. So, yeah, I think they need to figure that out real quick.
For the season, before they enter the regular season.
Yep. But no, Buffalo Bills number 5. That's good. I'm okay with that. Miami Dolphins come in at number 6. I don't know about that one. I have to rethink that one.
I think they should be lower.
I think so too.
I mean, they went 9-8.
That is a true statement. I know that although I like Tua, I think that he does have a history of injury, so I'd like to see him play a full, healthy season. I do think they surrounded him with a plethora of weapons. His biggest problem is staying healthy to use them.
Yeah.
If he can stay healthy to use those weapons, then yeah, I think they could definitely be a pretty decent team in the AFC. Checking in at number 7, the Dallas Cowboys. If you're a Cowboys fan, they are sure to break your heart because they have all the preseason hype with none of the regular season benefit. I'm not really sold on Dak Prescott.
Yeah, no, there's lots of people aren't sold on Dak Prescott because he's just not he's just not the right quarterback for Dallas. At first he was, but he can't even lead them to an NFC championship or even a Super Bowl.
I'm not even sure if he's got a playoff win under his belt. I'd have to check that out.
Yeah.
But I think that it was the right decision to let Zeke Elliott go. I just don't think he was. I think Tony Pollard is better. I think that Tony Pollard's going to be fine being the workhorse back there. But I do want to say that I did Deuce Vaughn, right? That's who they drafted?
Yes, Deuce Vaughn, correct.
And he's had a pretty good preseason. Again, you got to take the preseason with a grain of salt. But I think that he's going to be a solid replacement to, maybe spell Tony Pollard a few times. So I think they're going to be just fine at running back. I don't think they're even going to notice that Zeke Elliott's gone.
Yep. Because he was a decent running back at Kansas State.
Taking in at number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. So we talked about them in another podcast earlier. I think that as long as some of the pickups that they made in offseason stay healthy, like Odell Beckham Jr., and work out, I think they'll be fine. I think the one thing they need is for Rashad Bateman to not necessarily become the number 1 receiver, but just become a solid receiver for them and, stay healthy this year. I think as long as he's a solid receiver, then that'll be fine for him. I don't think he's a number 1 receiver. I talked a little bit about that when you asked me about the Ravens. So I think that Zay Flowers, again, another kid that looks really good in the preseason, but you gotta be careful with that preseason. Wow, he looks like great because the preseason is just that. We all know players don't try that hard. They don't play very long. But I do think that I've seen the way that Zay Flowers plays. I think that he's going to be a fine addition to that Baltimore receiving crew. And I think that he's going to really help out. I think he's going to help Rashad Bateman be a better receiver this year because I think that everybody's not going to be able to focus on one receiver this year. They're going to have to make sure that Bateman, Beckham Jr., and Zay Flowers are all covered along with Mark Andrews. So I think the Ravens could be very dangerous this year as long as they keep their health. I know they've added a couple additions for the little bit of depth in the defense. I don't know if you've noticed, but they signed Javon Clowney.
Yep. Yep,
to give a little depth to that outside linebacker position, which I think they needed because they lost Justin Houston.
And Calais Campbell.
Well, Calais Campbell is a defensive line man, but I think they have a little bit of depth at that position. I think that's why they let him go. He is older. He's getting up in his career. And he probably also wanted to go to somebody who he knew was going to be a contender for a Super Bowl because he's probably going to retire here in a couple of years. So Calais Campbell is getting up in age. Moving on to the Chargers. Number 9. Yeah, I think they'll be alright. I think that they had. Let me go back and look. I think they had a decent year last year.
Yeah, they were 10-7. I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine again this year. I think they looked pretty good for most of the year last year. They had a couple of losses I thought they should have won. But yeah, I think the Chargers will be fine. Detroit Lions at number 10. So here I think is a sleeper. I think that the Detroit Lions could end up winning the NFC North. I think the Vikings will be on top of that division again this year. I'm not sure about the Packers yet. Jordan Love again looked good in the preseason, but I want to see him in a regular season game when everybody's going, 100 miles an hour, and it's the real deal. So we'll see what happens to him. I'm not sold on Justin Fields and the Bears. I know he can run, but teams are going to be looking for that this year. He's not going to take them by surprise anymore.
Yeah.
I think his biggest question is now that the Bears have given him a couple of weapons to throw to, can he be accurate and use his arm can he make teams respect his arm? Nobody respects his arm right now. They don't respect him throwing the ball. So I think his biggest question he needs to answer this year is, can he make teams respect his ability to throw the ball on short passes and down the field? And if he can do that, then maybe the Bears are a little bit better. But I still think the Lions are better than the Bears, and I think they're going to be better than the Packers. The Lions have slowly, over like 20 years, Lions have slowly put together a pretty decent team up there in Detroit. And I think they're going to be a pleasant surprise this year for the Detroit fans. I think they're going to battle it out for that NFC North title this year.
Yeah. I think we'll battle that one out.
Jacksonville at number 11. I'm okay with that. I'm pretty sure that they are going to end up the AFC South, just like the NFC South. I think the NFC South is going to be probably the weakest division in the NFL this year. I just don't see Tampa Bay, Carolina. The New Orleans Saints are probably going to be the best team out of that division this year.
Like Derek Carr showed in that preseason game against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that the Jacksonville is going to definitely benefit from the AFC South being a horrible division. Also, I just don't see the Colts doing anything, especially since their star running back is now jaded, and if they don't trade him, it's probably going to be a lot of dysfunction there. I'm not sold on C.J. Stroud and the Texans. Titans, they're a strange team.
They're always
They have the potential to win that division and be decent. I'm just not sure. So Seattle at number 12, I'm good with that. I think that Geno Smith really surprised some people last year and had a really good year. And I look for him to have another good year this year.
New York at number 1.
So the New York Jets, let's talk about them a little bit. So they added Aaron Rodgers to the trade.
Dalvin Cook.
Yep, they signed Dalvin Cook, the running back from Minnesota. I think they're another team where health is going to be important for them. Dalvin Cook has only played one full season, one full injury-free season in his career, and that was last year. So he has to play an injury-free season this year. And yes, I think the Jets will be a tough team in the AFC. Pittsburgh Steelers at number 14. I think it's fine. I don't think they're world beaters. I think they'll be an okay team. Yep. We already talked about the Vikings. They come in at 15. I think that they're going to be battling it out with the Lions for the NFC North title. Giants, I'm not sold on. We'll see what happens with them. I just don't think that they're going to contend in the NFC East. Patriots at number 17. I think that's okay. I'm not really sure what they're going to look like this year. They were 8-9 last year. I think they've gotten a little bit better.
I think to their team.
I think Zeke's a little out of shape, but we'll see.
That's pretty much the reason why the
Yeah. Cleveland Browns at number 18. I think they could be a decent team this year. I think they could be okay. We just talked about New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to win the NFC South. I think they'll be a good team this year. Packers, I'm not sure about. They come at number 20. Broncos at 21. I'm not sure if Sean Payton can save that team. We'll see. Carolina Panthers at 22. Oh boy.
I think you should put them at 19.
I'm a Panthers fan, and I'm not even sure if they should be ranked 22.
I think they should be ranked 19. Not because I'm a fan, because they've added additions. They drafted Young. They got Adam Thielen from the Vikings.
Yeah, but he's older now. He's not the same player he was. DJ Chark is a anomaly for me because he could be a really good receiver for them, but he could also have the injury problems he's had and miss a lot of games. So I think Carolina is still in rebuild mode. I saw they passed up on a lot of players they could have signed, and they signed a lot of bargain basement players, and that's what Matt Rule was doing in the past seasons when he was there, and it did not work out for him. So we'll see how that works out for Mr. Frank Reich and his staff. I think the Panthers could be okay and have a better record than last year, but I just don't know. The turnaround, I think the Panthers fans, like myself, should temper their expectations for the Panthers this year. They're not going to be world beaters. They'll probably win a few more games than they did last year, but I just don't know if they're going to be competitive. That offensive line has been horrendous in the preseason, and if they can't keep Bryce Young upright, then they're not going to be competitive with anybody, especially a rookie quarterback who's learning the game his first year as a starter.
They got to keep him protected.
Yeah. Raiders come in at 23. Bears at 24. Commanders at 25. Titans at 26. Rams at 27. Falcons at 28. Colts at 29. Buccaneers at 30. Texans at 31. Cardinals at 32. I don't have any problem with those rankings. I'm sure that it'll all shuffle around. If I had to move any teams around, I might shift the Saints up a little bit. I think they're better than 19. I would probably I'd drop the Bears down to number 30 or 32, and I would probably drop Carolina down to 29 for now. I have low expectations for them this year. I just don't see a huge turnaround in year one. Maybe next year or the year after, Frank Reich's changes and his vision might come to fruition, but I just don't see it happening in 1 year.
Okay.
Unfortunately. I do think the AFC will be. I actually think the NFL is probably. The NFL and Major League Baseball right now are probably the two most. Have the two sports with the most parity currently. What I mean by that, just the fact that that AFC and NFC are one doesn't look stronger than the other, right? And the in the NBA, the West right now is dominant. They have been. In the college football, it's the SEC, and the NFL and the AFC. You have the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, possibly the Ravens, and the Jaguars, who are all good. Then you have a couple of teams who may be surprising this year, like the Chargers, possibly the Broncos, the Jets. The Jets could be a surprise. Maybe the Dolphins. And so that just makes the AFC that much harder to get through, right? NFC, you got the same thing. You got the Eagles. You got the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Seahawks. You got the Vikings. You got the Lions. Possibly the Packers. And you got the Saints. With maybe a surprise from the Rams or the Giants over there. So, that's pretty decent parity right there.
Okay.
It's pretty even, pretty balanced between the two conferences. I like that. Because it's not a foregone conclusion who's going to win, right? The Super Bowl.
Alright. So, I'll go to our fantasy at number 1. The Super Bowl champs. That should be number 1. I totally agree with that. Philadelphia at number 2. Yes. They made it to the Super Bowl. They added good defensive players. Like, they added Jalen Carter. I can't remember the other one's name. Well, they got some good guys in the draft for their defense to just add up. The Bengals at number 3. Yeah, I agree with that. They have a great wide receiver duo with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
They have a trio of receivers.
Yeah.
They have Tyler Boyd too. Any one of those guys, any one of those 3 guys, like you're playing with fire, guarding them, putting a DB on them one-on-one on an island. You're playing with fire. Any one of those 3 guys. That's why the Bengals are so hard to stop offensively. Like those, you can't double team all 3 receivers.
That's why it's such a problem for the Chiefs.
Yep, I agree. They have more than
2 years.
Yep.
The 49ers at number 4. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. I think that's a good spot. The 49ers, Brock Purdy has shown that he is a better player than he was when he first came into the 49ers. He's shown, because he's 7-0 before his injury. He's 7-0 before his injury.
I think he was another player that was underrated. Yeah. And so when he got his opportunity, when Trey Lance and Garoppolo both got hurt, he took full advantage of it and showed that he could play. Now he just needs to replicate that play and just keep his turnovers down and just be a solid player. Like he was a solid player last year in those 7 wins. Like He didn't turn the ball over. He made good decisions with football, and that's all you can ask for from your quarterback. He doesn't have to be a superstar. They have enough weapons with Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel. Uh, who's the tight end? They're really good tight end too. Like he has weapons, so he doesn't.
George Kittle.
There you go, Kittle. So you don't have to, he doesn't have to be spectacular or do anything spectacular, right? He just has to take care of the football. He's got playmakers who can do the spectacular plays as long as he gets them the football. And they have a decent running back by committee out there in San Francisco too. So yeah, no, all he's got to do is protect the football. That's it. Take care of it, and he'll be fine.
The Buffalo Bills at number 5. That's a good spot for them. But they want to keep that number 5 spot. They got to figure out, like you said, the problem with Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
They have a problem with him. You got to keep a wide receiver happy. Like the kind of wide receivers like that good of a wide receiver. You need to keep happy on your team. Because that could be a big risk of losing your top wide receiver.
We're running out of time, so just do the top 10.
Then the Miami Dolphins at number 6. I gotta agree with you on that. It depends on Tua's health right now. It really depends on his health. And the Cowboys at number 7. Prescott's just not the right guy. They had to cut Amari Cooper. I don't think I'm not sure if he's ever got a divisional win in the playoffs in his career. I've got to check that. I'm not sure if he's ever won a divisional game. The Baltimore Ravens at number 8. I agree with that. Zay Flowers. I watched a little highlight of him when they played the Commanders. He showed that he was a good wide receiver. He showed that he's a good wide receiver and that he can back up Nelson Aguilar or Odell Beckham Jr. Any of those guys. I think the Ravens should be at number 8 because of the guys they added to their roster. Because they put Lamar on a full contract. Odell Beckham Jr. They got Nelson Aguilar. And they got Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman is a good wide receiver, Like you said, I don't think he should be a wide receiver yet, a number 1 wide receiver yet, but he's getting there. Number 9 for the Chargers.
The Carver's good there. I think they're fine. Joey Bosa, the other Bosa brothers, really good. They got Derwin James. They have good defense. Yeah. I think they're fine. Their problem is they need to figure out what they're going to do with Cam Akers. He wants out. They didn't really trade him. They need to figure out what to do with Cam Akers. Either they're going to pay him or they're going to trade him.
Is he on the Rams? I thought he was still on the Rams.
Oh, maybe he is on the Rams then.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought he was on the Chargers. Who's their running back for the Chargers then?
Austin Eckler.
Oh, that's right. I got those two mixed up. You're right.
Drafting Max Duggan. Also, his buddy from TCU, Quentin Johnson. That was a good decision. We're going to draft those two because those two make a good duo. When it comes to playing, Max Duggan can give Justin Herbert some breathers of how good he was at TCU. Because he's a Heisman Trophy kid. He's a good player. So was Quentin Johnston. And then the last one for me, number 10, the Detroit Lions. I think they're at a good spot. They're drafting Hendon Hooker. He's an okay choice. I mean, it could give Jared Goff some breathers. Because, Jared Goff's age is catching up to him, kind of. And, they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was a good draft for them. That is to cover up the hole after releasing DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. Also, they got David Johnson, right? Yeah. Okay, I think number 10's a good spot. I think Jared Goff has, like you said, over the past 20 years, they're slowly putting together a contender. I think they will be NFC North favorites, and maybe even NFC favorites.
Okay. What they drafted? Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee. That's right. Yeah. So if he heals properly, that gives him, a good backup quarterback, maybe even starter eventually in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to Brock for giving us the local standout, Mr. Devin Maccabee. We'll try to do that in the beginning of every episode, just kind of recognize a local player who's a good news story who made it against the odds. We thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it.
And we'll see you next time on the Common Man's Take on Sports.